Misa Chen. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Autopilot Reviews. And we're here today for Asian Hustle Network's podcast. We have Nguyen. I met Han last year on the ACE Next Gen conference in, where was it?
Chicago.
Yes, Chicago. And Ha is the co-founder of Seven Leaves Cafe, over 40 locations across the United States. We're going to be going into his amazing story of grit, just all the way from when he was a child up to building this amazing empire. Okay, so Ha, thanks so much for coming today.
I'm happy to be here.
It was so cool catching up with you next week and doing the prep for this interview. And my favorite part about connecting was really learning about your origin story. In Vietnam, you were born there, and just your upbringing there and what you guys, your whole family experienced. So can we just start there? This whole episode, the thread between all these episodes that we're doing is about grit and building grit and hardship and how that all feeds into being an entrepreneur. So can we first dive into your upbringing there? You mentioned that you're born in Vietnam, in the middle of the Vietnam War. Let's start there with that story.
Sure.
But before that, a quick word from our sponsors. Before I started Autopilot Reviews, I actually had a food truck called Nom Nom Truck. I would be working weekends almost every day on it. And what I soon learned is that you don't get a lot of positive feedback about yourself. You only see the bad things. It's hard to get purpose. It's hard to stay motivated. Same with as a manager. When I managed everyone on the food truck, you only see the fires that you need to put out. And so when I closed the food truck, I wanted to change that world for frontline employees and managers. I decided to build a customer feedback software that would deliver positive feedback to the front line. It delivers over 95% positive feedback, and so that hopefully we can live in a new world where frontline employees are cheered on and managers can see what a great job that they're doing. With Autopilot Reviews, we're going to build that new world.
Let's see. Well, I'm Vietnamese, so we came to America in, I think, 1984. I was born in 1982 in Vietnam, and this is like maybe 7 years after the war. And after the war, it's pretty much a lot of chaos in Vietnam. So my dad was in prison because after the war, anyone who kind of had money, the government took it away, right? So my dad was in prison, and he escaped like 3-4 times, and each time it was just like, he would just kept on getting caught.
Wait, so then your mom was with your brothers at the time. Every time he escaped, she was kind of holding down the house.
Actually, we were kind of all separated.
Wow.
Because it was 4 of us, and it was very hard for my mom to take care of us. So one brother would be in Saigon, and another one would be in Nha Trang. So we weren't really together at that time. So so what happened was there was right after I was born in '82, my dad escaped prison, and then we had to flee the country because I think if he got caught one more time, I think he would have been executed.
And you were saying that your mom, just at maybe 4 months old, you were detained.
Yeah. So what happened was I think my mom gave birth to me, and to kind of smoke my dad out of hiding, they detained my mom and me. I think it worked. They captured my dad, took him to the train, and that was the last time he got caught. But he was able to escape one more time.
Oh my goodness.
And that last time is he jumped off they were literally transporting him on a train, and he literally was able to just jump off the train handcuffed and made it back home. And I think my oldest brother, he remembered this memory where my dad came home and he was just filled with blood everywhere and bruises. And he just literally said, "Hey kids, he told my mom, we just gotta pack up everyone and leave tonight."
And so you were just a baby at the time?
Yeah, I was still a baby.
Okay.
So I don't remember anything.
So you're the youngest
Yeah.
of all of your brothers?
Yes,
And
yes.
so you guys pack up and you called it boat people? Kind of that was...
Yeah, that's what we're called. So it's either you leave by land or you leave by boat. Mm-hmm. So like for our family, we took a right turn into the ocean, right? So you take a turn to the ocean, you would leave by boat. The other one who took a left turn, they would leave to either Cambodia or to Thailand, right? Most of them went to Cambodia.
Yeah.
Right. So we left by boat, and yeah, my dad picked us up. We left by boat. It was a small fishing boat. I think from what my brothers, what they remember was, it was probably like a 10 by 8 fishing boat. Yeah. And it was 6 of us, my mom, my dad, my 3 brothers, including me, and my 2 uncles. And we were just stranded in the ocean for 7 days. Yeah.
And by that time, you had run out of food, run out of fuel.
So on the 5th day, we ran out of fuel and we ran out of food. So we were just stranded in the middle of the ocean, right? And I think, like, one of the horror stories or the sad stories about the boat people is I think there was hundreds of thousands of people who left by boat, hundreds of thousands. And I think the statistic is only maybe 60 to 80% didn't make it. Yeah.
Majority did not make it.
The majority did not make it. So
because of either running out of food, fuel, so forth,
or getting killed by pirates. The biggest.
Pirates.
Yeah, pirates was a big issue. So we were extremely blessed because we didn't run into any pirates.
Oh my goodness.
So, but there's some horror stories about that. It just makes me, or even my family, just shows how lucky we are that we didn't run into any obstacles.
That was kind of a theme throughout our conversation. Even into entrepreneurship, you were saying you feel like your family is very lucky, and there is a luck component in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and I think like there's not a day that goes by that I don't count my blessings. It's same thing with my brothers. We're very aware how blessed we are and how lucky we are, because like for some people, they work hard their whole lives and sometimes they don't get rewarded, right? We got that. Like, we worked really hard and we got rewarded. Very few people are able to say that. So for us, it's like that's the luck. So
I almost feel like you guys are lucky, but maybe being born into that lucky circumstance and feeling like you're so lucky, that kind of carries you across all the hardships in life some ways.
I think for sure.
Having that mentality, I mean, just being born into that, it's almost like a miracle. Like your whole family had a miracle happen to it.
Yeah, and I think
it really changes your mentality, I would say.
100%.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's just there is like one miracle after another. When I was younger, I didn't recognize it. Right?
Yeah,
but when I grew older and I started to see and hear these stories and I get to observe.
You grew up with these miraculous stories.
Yeah, for us it was just normal. It just happened, right? But when you get out in the world, you go to college, you start your own business, you start to see that there were so many. How many bullets did we dodge, right?
Yes.
And it's a miracle in itself.
Wow. And so you guys are stuck out at sea. You don't have any food, you don't have any water, and then all of a sudden, 7 days in, 2 days after you run out of fuel and water, gasoline comes floating by.
Yes.
In the sea.
Yeah.
This miracle happens, and you guys have enough gasoline to make it to the Philippines.
That is correct. Yeah, and my brother, he remembers vividly because we were just floating, and I think it was my brother that saw something in the ocean. So he remembers that. And then I think my dad, he jumped in, and he grabbed it and came back, and it was just enough fuel for us to get to the Philippines. And we stayed there for the Philippines for I think a year.
Okay.
Enough for us to make some money and get our green card to come to America.
Okay, great.
And we came to America in 1984. And when we got to the airport, I think my dad had maybe $100, maybe $50 in his pocket.
Talk about the American dream.
Yeah. And I think we had a sponsor, but I think our sponsor didn't show to pick us up.
No.
And then, so what we had to do is that last remaining money that we had, I think my dad, he rented a garage, So I think our family.
Family, how many brothers do you have?
A total of 4 brothers,
Okay.
right? Yeah, and then my mom and my dad. So 6 of us was in a garage. And I think we stayed there for several years. I think 2 years. And I think I was maybe 2 or 3. And I remember, it was in El Monte. And I kind of remember this part, very, very blurry. But my dad would like find a lot of odd jobs. He would like clean up chicken coops. He would mow grass. He would find whatever job he could find. But the amazing thing is he was able to learn English and get a driver's license.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just amazing that he was able to do all that, right? And then my mom on the side she would take me and my brothers to go collect cans. So I kind of remember that, right? As a little kid, just following my mom.
So do you feel like this upbringing, you immigrated into the United States, do you feel like this built up your grit towards entrepreneurship, or was it kind of like you just had this carefree childhood? What was it like? Was everyone just very grateful?
I think our company, it's a family business. So it's me, my 3 brothers, and we have 3 other partners, which is also family members. So it's my brother's wife and her brother. But my older brother, they're very entrepreneurial since day one, and I think it's because of this. Is they kind of
have to be.
Yeah, right. And they're willing to take risks. Because I think we were so used to this lifestyle where we didn't have a lot, right? So like if we took a risk and it doesn't work out, we were like, oh, we don't have a lot anyways, and it wasn't that bad, right?
Yeah.
So we were like, what's the worst that can happen? It's like we lived off like cup of noodles and just like fish sauce with rice. That was not a problem for us. So we live in the same room. Me and my brother, we shared the same room for like 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's got to bring you so close.
I think so. For me, is like I'm not really an entrepreneur, but I support whatever my brothers do.
Oh, that's great.
So when my brother decided to like, hey, let's open a business, he invited me and he said like, hey, I know you just finished law school. Would you like to join us and like maybe wash the dishes, right? So I'm like, sure, why not? Like that's not a problem for me, right? So for me, it was always just like getting to hang out with them, and I think that's like, I think the big reason we did this, because everything we've done it together.
And maybe not a lot of people know this, but before Seven Leaves, you did have some other businesses that ended up failing.
Yeah. So I think it was in 2001, we started an internet cafe business. And that business, we were young, and it was a trendy business. So we didn't know a lot, but we were like, hey, looks like everyone's opening this thing up. It looks like it's very popular. Why don't we do it? So we did it, and our store was actually quite popular, right? However, it was a trend. And trends are meant to die.
So is that what you feel like you learned from that business? Is that it's not worth it to start a trend business where the trend might die? Or do you feel like you learned from that failure? Because I feel like every entrepreneur has failures that they end up learning from.
Well, I think that one taught me a lot, right? And it taught my family a lot. The location we had was it was a very big space. It was 5,000 square feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. 7,000, then we cut it down to 5. So one of the things we learned is start simple and make sure it's manageable, right? So we didn't want to open anything that was grand and big. It was more of how do we create something where it's easy to manage, easy to kind of educate people on, right? So that was the first part. And that was the biggest, in my opinion, the game changer. Where can you find a business where you can make it extremely simple for people to understand, right?
Just like very few choices, straightforward.
Yeah. I think most business, when they come in, they're like, and I think you see this in a lot of boba places, their menu would be like 200 items.
Yes, and that is overwhelming. That's why I actually went to 7 Leaves this morning.
Thank you.
With my baby, I took him in tow in my minivan. I was so excited to find out you had a drive-through.
Yeah.
And there's not even any food, which I love. It's just like a couple drinks, and I was able to decide so quickly. Having fewer choices is actually very nice in a menu, and I love that about it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things we learn is that, when you keep everything simple, you make it very easy for your customers to make a choice, right? When let's say a menu is so big and large, there's a paradox of choice, and you get paralysis, right? A decision paralysis. So what we did was like, hey, why don't we just make a menu that's maybe only 7 items, but it's no-brainers and it's easy to explain, easy to make, and you make it very easy for the customers to just select, and you can't go wrong, right?
Yeah.
So that was our philosophy with 7 Leaves, and we took that from our mistakes that we made in the past, because we tried to do something really grand, really big, and when you have something like that, you need a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
And when you have a lot of moving parts, you need a lot of resources. We didn't have enough resources, so we were doing like 20 things at once per person.
And I remember when we were talking on the pre-prep interview last week, you said that on your first day of business, no one showed up.
Yeah.
And
for
that's
some reason.
so hard to believe, because now you're at 40 locations. I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
what an entrepreneurial story. You said there was no marketing or anything, it's just repeat business. So after that first day when you opened your doors and no one showed up, was it hard to keep going, or was it like, okay, I'm supporting my brothers, we're in this together, let's just see what happens? Kind of how do you keep going after that?
No, not hard at all. Well, number one, personally for myself is and I think it's for my brothers too, we didn't do it for the money, right? Like I did, I joined the business for the purpose of being with the family.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's a great purpose.
Right. So even if money wasn't coming in, it was fine. Right. You talk about sales. We had very low expectations. We didn't have this grand idea that it was gonna.
Was it a really, like, let's describe the first shop. Was
Sure.
it kind of just like, was it only a drive-through, or was
No. The first location was in this dinky, like little, I guess a corner lot with like very traditional Asian like restaurants and
So
storefronts.
it wasn't an amazing location.
No,
It was
it's
kinda like
quite
the
dirty.
location
It was
fine.
like I said, it was dinky.
What year was this?
2012.
Okay.
Yeah. And me and my brothers, we were like, yeah, we make $100, we'll be happy the first day. No, literally, we were like, if we made $100, we'd be happy. We made a sale, right? And I think that's how much we made the first day.
Wow.
Around like $200. The next day, we were really happy because we made $120. So it was like $20 more.
So was it just a little? Was it like? Oftentimes, I feel like in entrepreneurship, the media blows it up like, oh, overnight success. It was so quick that they came to success. But in your mind, was it more like baby steps that it built up, or was it suddenly like, wow, it's huge?
I think it was it wasn't like overnight for sure. It wasn't a week. I think it was a month. So after a month, that's when we saw the line.
Oh, you had full-on lines.
Yeah, it actually wrapped around the whole building.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You have to have taken a picture of that. That's an achievement.
No, we never take pictures, unfortunately. Yeah, my brother, we do.
We're too busy running the business.
No, we just never take pictures. You cannot find a picture of me and my brothers when we're like teenagers.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like if you try to look for me and my brothers in our high school yearbook, you ain't gonna find us, right? And you can't find us in like old pictures when we were younger. So, yeah, I wish we would have taken a picture, but we don't have any pictures. But yeah, after a month, we saw the line wrapped around, and it was.
Probably knew you were onto something.
Yeah, and that's when we asked my 2 other brothers to jump on board.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, and they were amazing because my Sonny, we asked him to join. He's currently our CEO, and he's a true leader. He's a true leader. People follow him, and they really respect him. Kwang, he's very creative, and Vin, he's like the most disciplined person. If you would ask us, like I grew up in the '90s, right? So I love boy bands and like R&B boy bands. So we're kind of like a boy band. Like one has,
that's awesome.
right? So there's like the leader, right? Vin, he's like the tough guy. Kwang's like the creative. Sunny's like the leader with the face, right? I'm like the guy that never sings. Yeah. I'm just in the background, just like talking. Yeah. But yeah, and when we had that team together with our partners, we just started dividing, like, hey, you do this, you do that, and we just trust each other.
Well, there's so much trust there from your childhood. You were saying that your brothers essentially brought you up. So that's great.
Yeah. Like my dad, like he was so busy, like he was never around. So it was like my brother who kind of like raised me, like taught me how to like try to navigate through life, and try to be a really good role model. So like I have to admit, they were like very hard to top. Like they just excelled in everything. So yeah, I can't say for myself, right? Like I had bad grades, like I never, right? So, but like the one thing that they always taught, and I think the one thing that my mom instilled in us was just, is make sure you work before you have fun. Like finish your work. So my mom would just make us do like the most tedious stuff and get us to just work.
Like household work?
Yeah. So we learned, like I learned how to cook when I was like maybe 7.
Wow.
So like imagine like a 7-year-old like with a knife and just cutting. So we learned that at a very young age. We did all the dishes, we did all the vacuuming, we did all the mopping. So the house was always taken care of.
And so was your mom excited when you were opening up the cafe with your brothers?
She did not know.
Oh, you didn't tell her?
No.
Did you not tell her because you knew that she would react negatively? I know that you were about to get the bar.
Yes.
Did you just pass the bar to be a lawyer?
Yeah, I passed the bar and
then you became a dishwasher.
And it became a dishwasher. Best decision ever.
That's
so,
amazing.
well, it's probably better now than ever. So if anyone asks me like, hey, should I be a lawyer? I'll probably tell them to be a dishwasher.
You got to spend more time with your brothers.
Yeah, for sure. It's priceless. When it comes to my family, we really didn't tell my mom. Like my mom.
At what point did she actually find out? When there was a line around the block, or
like she knew we had the first.
Where are they all going into this Seven Leaves Cafe place?
She I think at the beginning she only thought like Kwang was involved.
Oh,
right. Like she didn't really right. It wasn't until like maybe our 3rd or 4th store.
Oh my gosh!
When
we
we
were able to keep it from her.
That's a secret, a happy relationship with your parents. Like just don't say anything. So yeah, it was. That's when I finally told my mom, like, yeah, I don't practice anymore. so that's like kind of the story. But the hard work was just my mom just literally just gave us all the muscle memory we needed. So I don't think anyone can outwork my brothers. Like I haven't seen, like my whole life, I have not seen a person outwork them.
Because they were brought up by your mom like that, to just always be focusing on
Yeah, and their mental discipline is it's quite amazing. I can't say that's for me. I'm pretty lazy.
You're so hard on yourself.
When you live with them, like trust me, you're lazy. Anyone who works with them, like, is considered lazy. So
wow, in comparison to them.
Yeah, and I think you can ask anyone in our company, they'll say like my oldest brother Vin, he is a machine. He is a machine.
And so do you feel like, because grit is something that we're talking a lot about in each of these episodes, do you feel like the grit was really built originally from that experience of the memories of being on the boat, immigrating to the US, and then having that upbringing? Do you feel like that fed into building up their grit and their hard work, and then how your mom raised them, or is it everything together?
I think it's everything together. I think it's like you said, when you have so much resistance, you just naturally push back, and that pushing back of that resistance creates this, I guess, muscle that you just have naturally. So for my brother, with all this tension that we have, we just constantly push back, and it just built a tremendous amount of just tenacity, I would call it, of just working hard. We're trying to change that up. We don't work nearly as hard as we used to.
Yeah, you need to enjoy and reap the benefits of
Yeah. So so my oldest brother, he took, like, he still loves to work, because he's just one of those guys that just cannot sit still. Like, he's one of those guys. He's trying to meditate, and he does a hell of a job doing that. Well, we all meditate.
Oh, that's great. So
yeah.
You actually are the person who inspired. I now meditate every day because of you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. That's high compliment.
Your talk at Ace Next Gen really impacted me. You provided these amazing music to have hundreds of people in the audience meditate too.
I thought you were the one that booed me. I was just joking.
No, oh my goodness, it was so amazing. And I still listen to a couple of the songs that you include in that meditation because they were so helpful. Because before I hated meditation.
Yeah.
I don't like the silence. I really need that music. Like, I'm the personality where I need that music to string along and help me focus.
Yeah. One of the things we learn is, and me and my brothers, we talked about this all the time, is whether it's something like hard, is just your mind telling you it's hard. But when you actually look at it objectively, what's really hard about just sitting down and just doing nothing? Like, physically, it's like the easiest thing in the world, but it's our mind telling us that. So how do we get our mind? So what I think, one of the things I just developed was just, how do I make it easier on the mind?
Yes.
Right? So just that music hack really helped a lot.
I think, like, I'm an operations person as well. I'm so into go, doing. And so I think that's why meditation was such a difficult thing before. And so, like, once you showed me this path, you can listen, it's okay, you can listen to music. Yeah. I think it's just such an easier.
Yeah, I think because, meditation is just really about really trying to be really present with the moment, right? So, and we call it anchoring. Is like, how do you anchor to the present moment? And this is why people feel so happy when they do karaoke, because when you're doing karaoke or singing, you're just being present with the moment.
Focusing,
You focus on the music.
And the now.
Yeah, so a lot of people, what they do now is when they listen to music, it's always in the background, but they're doing something else.
So it's never fully focusing on it.
Exactly. So my practice is, when I listen to music, is I'm trying to listen to it as if I'm listening to it for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's in like a new whole experience each time.
Even if you've heard the music before.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then looking at a painting for the first time. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's.
I like that.
Yeah. So all our brothers, we meditate. We're quite into just, I call it inner development or peace.
Self-work, kind of.
Yes, self-work. Because we just had so much. I guess we were working so much that I think a lot of us, like, our body just broke down. So now we're just getting to a state where, how do we find this peace and calm? And get back.
Let's go a little bit more into mental health.
Sure.
You took a little bit of a step back because you felt like you needed more of that balance. So what advice do you have for other entrepreneurs out there who are looking to build their business, but then suddenly they get burned out? When is it time to step back a little bit?
But before that, a quick word from our sponsors.
When you open a can of Droplet, you're not just getting sparkling flavors. You're getting as close to freshly picked as a drink can get, with a side of inner balance. Droplet is inspired by the words and moments that make us feel alive. The smell of passion fruit from a tropical vacation, the zing of ginger that makes us feel revitalized, white peach and lemon verbena for moments of calm. We don't use any preservatives, processed sugars, or artificial sweeteners. We just wanted to make something pure, wholesome, and elegant. Something that could brighten someone's day and remind them to take care of themselves. We are 100% women-owned and operated. From the formulas to the fulfillment, there's a woman leading every step of the way. So when you're drinking Droplet, trust that our intention was to be here for you. Because we know how much you care, how much you do, how much a little bit of balance would make a difference in your life. We want only good things for you too. Drink Droplet. it's self-care in every sip.
Like I said, I got lucky, right? I got lucky because I had no other choice. I don't know if you remember during ACE, I had the picture of me with like shingles, right? So
you don't get shingles till much older.
yeah, so it was literally stress telling me like, hey, my body just literally said, you gotta stop. So for me, like, it's hard to give an advice on that, because for me, it just,
yeah, it's like your body, you just couldn't go anymore.
I just couldn't go anymore. Like physically, I just couldn't go anymore,
Wow.
right? But I would say this is the best thing I did was I just made a strong conviction that my mind is more important, and I'll do whatever it takes to repair it. Right?
You felt like you had gotten to a place where you really needed to focus on that. Repair.
Because it doesn't make any sense. Like, you can have everything, this, externally, right? Whether it's like money, cars, or whatever. But if you don't have the proper mind to enjoy it, then it's kind of pointless.
What's the point? Yeah, what's the point of becoming successful if your mind isn't in the right place?
Exactly.
When you get there.
Yes.
I think that's what so many entrepreneurs, that happens to them. They suddenly get, I know a lot of successful entrepreneurs who are actually very unhappy once they get there, because the journey was so difficult and so stressful. They gave up so much to get there.
Yeah.
They aren't even enjoying it once they get there.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where you were at?
Yeah, I can't even tell a story about this. Is me and my family, we went to Hawaii, right? Paradise. Like, everyone loves Hawaii.
Oh, you and all of your brothers?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was miserable there.
Wait, because you were just stressed out about work?
Yeah.
Or?
So it's like you're in paradise, but you can't stop thinking about work.
Oh my goodness.
Right? So it's like one of those things, like that's when I knew.
What is going on with me?
Yeah. So when that happens, thank God I recognized. I'm like, oh.
Was this break before shingles?
There's a little after shingles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
There's a
when
little
you
after
realized
shingles.
you really need to focus.
Yeah. And that's when I start going to all this different modalities of how do you just get your mind to constantly, I guess, be happy, right? Because I think none of us actually taught ourselves how to be happy.
I think that society also, it's not necessarily geared towards our happiness. Like, you need to more search. We had a whole coffee hangout where you and I got coffee. I think it was a couple months ago. We talked about this. Only you can figure out what can make you happy, and oftentimes what society tells you to do to make you happy isn't what will actually allow you to achieve that happiness.
Yeah, as much as I love America, and I'm extremely grateful for it, the one thing that it does create is there's a constant push for it to tell you that you're not satisfied.
Never enough.
You're never enough.
You need to ask for more.
Yeah. So when you have that repeating message, you look at yourself like, when can I ever be happy? So you constantly, you add stuff to yourself, whether it's I don't know, you gotta buy new stuff for yourself.
Yes.
So
I just buy this pair of shoes, I'll be successful.
Exactly.
I feel more adequate.
Yeah. And the great thing is, one of the things I learned is that when I went to Mount Kilimanjaro and I went hiking, there was no running water, there was no good food, you're camping, you're dirty, no shower, so you had nothing. But at that moment, I felt at peace and I was extremely happy.
It's amazing.
But it told me
I don't need that much.
Your mind can get to a certain point where you can actually be happy without those stuff. So how do you do that?
Yeah,
right?
you stripped it all away and realized that you can just have your foundation, be happy without needing all this stuff.
Yeah, I would even call it happiness, and I know this sounds cheesy, but happiness must come from within and not from without, right?
It's so simple, but it's so hard to cultivate, because I feel like it's taken me months of meditating for 30 minutes every night, listening to the music you gave me. And just now I feel like I'm just beginning to cultivate, self-love and confidence.
Yeah.
And it's a really hard thing to work on.
Well, I think
It's so simple, but so hard.
I think because we've never been educated, right?
Oh yeah, they don't teach this in school.
They don't, right? And one of the things that a good friend of mine, he told me, why don't you say the things you say to yourself in your mind out loud, right? And I did it, and I'm like, holy crap, this is how I talk to myself?
Wait, like the inner critic?
Yeah, the inner critic.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Like, if you ever done it, you'd be like, oh my God, if my friends talk to me this way,
No,
I would not be
friends with them.
Yeah, but
Oh,
sometimes,
wow.
but sometimes you don't recognize that, right? So I was like,
Wow.
I need to start saying different things about myself. So I think that's where like affirmation comes in, journaling comes in, and those has been very, very helpful. So.
I think that one of the things is I always thought that self-love and being confident in myself would mean that I was snooty and stuck up, but those are two very different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always so afraid to tap into that.
Yeah.
And being proud of myself and saying you're enough.
Yeah.
You know, because I was always afraid of crossing that line and becoming too stuck up. So I think it's important to just figure out, okay, what can help you be more confident and achieve that happiness.
I think it's really tricky, right? And the reason why it's really tricky is because we're constantly worried about what other people think of us. And I think that's why, right? Is because we have that, you're afraid of being stuck up because maybe you think someone would perceive you that way. But if you just like really express yourself like to your true self, I don't think anyone would see it that way, right?
Yeah, it's true.
In addition, is I think there's a very fine line between, I guess, like what's the difference between competence and confidence, right? And I think like a lot of people, they're like, hey, I want to feel confident, but confidence is just the illusion of competence, right? So I always tell people like, hey, why don't you try to be competent and don't worry about confidence, right? And I think if you just do that, I think that expression will just come out.
It will naturally.
Yeah.
And there's one more thing I want to ask you regarding grit and this whole series that we're focusing on grit. I remember you also mentioned you were dyslexic like me. Do you feel like all those years of going to school and maybe working hard but not getting the grades you wanted, did that help shape you? Such a huge, disproportionate number of entrepreneurs end up being dyslexic. So is that something that helped shape you?
Yeah, I think.
Grit and perseverance.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's probably one of my I won't call it a gift, but I think it's one of those blessings that I didn't understand when I was younger. I think it's like it just taught me that when I was younger, I would study a lot, but I would still get bad grades. And I was like, oh shoot, I'm stupid, right? Because that's what you get,
Exactly
right?
how I felt. Oh,
right?
man.
So it's like I had this major fear of just being stupid, right? Especially when I'm surrounded by my brothers, who's like,
Oh, so none of them are dyslexic.
no, they're like,
Okay.
he's like a genius. Like they're all smart. Like it just pisses me off. But for me, it's like I see them study. I study.
And you're like, why am I not achieving the same results?
Yeah, I graduated with a 2.5 GPA, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, and it wasn't for a lack of trying. It was not for a lack of trying.
But maybe that's what built for me, that's what built my grit. You know,
Yeah.
it's like working so hard. You didn't achieve that, but you learned how to work hard.
100%. And I think what's more important is not only the grit, but I think that it gave me a belief in myself. Because I refused to believe I was stupid. Right? And I think some people, Henry Ford said this, is like, whether you think you are or you're not, you're absolutely right. Whether you believe you are or not, you're absolutely right. So if you believe you're stupid, you're gonna follow that belief.
You manifest.
You're gonna manifest it.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like at no point, because I had this, it gave me the, like, no matter what, I would not believe I'm stupid, right? And it just kind of like allowed me to just break through it. So now it's just, I wouldn't, and I see so many people who, when they talk to themselves, they're like, oh, I'm not smart. I'm like, do you really think that? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, and I was like, huh. If that's their belief, that's where there will be cap.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, with that it allowed me to just, I guess, like just really gave that sense of belief in myself that I can just push through it. So for me, it's like when I went to law school, it wasn't wasn't for money or prestige. It was actually to break down this paradigm that I can
That you
pass
can
the
do it
bar
and you can achieve it despite
that. Because it was kind of like, they were like, it was kind of not possible. If you're dyslexic, it's very difficult.
That's why I never went into law,
Yeah.
because it's very hard for dyslexics. That's amazing that you passed it.
Yeah,
Dyslexia.
but I always said like, I'll find a way, right? And I actually learned that from my brothers, right?
Oh.
They are those people who's like, don't worry, there's always a way. So from when I learned that from them, I'm like, yeah, they're absolutely right. There's always a way.
I love that. We're running out of time, but I know we wanted to talk about the nonprofit.
Yes.
And
This is
so
very meaningful for me.
Can we talk a little bit, just a quick story about this nonprofit that you started with your brother?
Sure. So I didn't start it, right? It was a nonprofit that my family's involved in. My brother, he's the vice chair. It's called iHumaneMissions.org. And the origin story is, for my brother is, you know how I said we're boat people? We took a right, we went to the ocean, right? There's some people who took a left turn and they went on land and they went to Cambodia. Well, there's a lot of kids over there, what they call it, the boat people. I mean, the river people. They're Vietnamese refugees, stateless. They can't, Cambodia is not giving them any like protection or citizenship, and they're not allowed to go back to Vietnam. So they're stuck in this like river, and that's where they make all their money. So my brother went back and he saw this. So one of the things we did is we joined forces with a hospital and we created this iHumane Missions. And that is actually to support these, I guess, refugees, stateless Vietnamese, because that could have been us.
They just don't have a lot of options. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember I teared up at the presentation you did at the conference where we first met, because you asked a little girl, she was maybe 5, 6,
Yep.
it looked like in the photo, and we asked her, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she said, what does growing up mean?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like these people, they don't have the opportunities, they don't have the knowledge of, you know, what it's like to be when you grow up.
Yeah. Like they don't have like for us, we have the American dream. Just because we live in America, right? We're like, we can be doctors, we can.
We're so privileged.
You ask them, they don't know what that means. It's just literally they're just gonna live in the river and fish, right? Because there's no school. They live on the boat.
No infrastructure.
Zero infrastructure. So what we did is, and this kudos to my brother Vinny, him and a group of doctors from a hospital. They come back every year, I think twice a year, and one is they give medical treatments. That's number one. Number two is that we just built a school for the kids, because we're like, if there is a way to raise consciousness for them, is to actually give them the education to at least learn how to read and write, and hopefully sponsor the kids who does well and get them to college. So we built the first school. My brother, he's currently building a second school, right? So this project that he does is that, so I support him 100%, right? So I just do the talking and I just ask people to like visit the site. He does all the heavy lifting, right? So all the benefits goes to him. But what we're trying to do is build a running water system for them, because they don't have clean water. Two is they don't have a home, so we're trying to build homes, and we're trying to build a second school. And I think the most important thing is whatever donations that is given to the website, I don't think any of it actually goes to any administrative cost. It actually goes directly.
Every dollar goes back to
Exactly.
them. I think that's like such a great lesson, that once you are successful as an entrepreneur, the great thing is you can give back.
Yeah.
And I love that you gave back to the community.
Thank you. Yeah, and I said before is like the only difference between like myself and these kids who's there right now is we just took a different.
Just the choice to go and buy seed.
That was it. Yeah, we could have been them for sure, 100%. So like we don't take that lightly.
Yeah.
So for us, it's very meaningful for us.
Wow. And how can people find, what's the website?
iHumaneMissions.org.
iHumaneMissions.org.
.org. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much.
I appreciate it. It was really fun.
it was awesome. And so that's the main thing that you would like the audience to go away with?
Yeah, I think it's just, we're just trying to bring awareness to this organization, and just visiting the website or just searching us and knowing what's happening. I think it's pretty important. So that's what we're trying to bring out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.